Amisha. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I got the host of Let's Chai and Chat on here. Maybe we could start there. Um, tell us about the podcast you host and why you started it.
um,
Big question to start.
yeah, I know. Wow, you just totally.
So let me market you real quick.
So, Let's Try and Chat was born just this year, actually. It was nothing in the plan. If you were to ask me a year ago, no idea. But it was like it was in January. I couldn't sleep and I did a lot of thinking. And like my thing is that I love the work I do. Like I love being a therapist and all of that stuff. But there's only so many clients you can see, right? And so I was thinking, how can my voice or how can I reach a broader audience, right? Because you learn so much about yourself sitting with your clients. But even beforehand, it's just like, oh, okay, like this stuff is for real, in the sense of the things that happen in South Asian culture.
Mm.
Like the silence of voices, the silence, like, not being told that I love you, or, all of these things. How is divorce happening, or relationships, and all these different things. And it's interesting because I'm like, how can I like talk about not just my clients, it's more about myself and all of these things in the sense of this stuff is for real. This stuff is like, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be like, shared, and not in a way where I'm having like experts come in and like dissecting something. It's about like, no, let's have raw conversation.
Yeah.
Like even though it's just me, and then like this past week I had my best friend on, and we talked about divorce and how like it's real, even though it is shunned upon. We're supposed to be quiet about it.
Mm.
Like even when going through the divorce, my parents were like, "Don't talk about it with anybody," and it's like, why? And so like, um, so yeah, so basically, I wanted to bring these topics up and kind of share how real these things can be, and to see if anybody else felt them, and to see if anybody else, you know, felt like they were they had to be a proper person, growing up. And I was far from like the I
The proper.
the ideal third child,
Yeah.
um, but I think because of that, it just allowed me to open up and see, and just really, yeah, open up and talk about these things and see where it lands with people.
Totally. I think it's amazing. And you've known that. I'm your number one fan.
Yes, you are.
I know when Amisha's podcasts are releasing, and I'm in the gym, I'm listening to Amisha's voice, and um, your voice is great on a
Thank
treadmill. I was listening to the rest of your episode this last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel motivated. I feel seen.
you.
No, I think it's amazing that you're doing this. I think it's so necessary for the community, and like to have real conversations too. Or like, I think people love to get educated on, different psychological things, different cultural implications, all of that. And so be it.
Mm-hmm.
And to have like real conversations with like providers who are experts, at what we do
Yeah.
is human. And I think that's what more and more people are wanting. So that's partially why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up this last episode because I actually have a question about something you said on there. You mentioned that um after your divorce and figuring things out for yourself, you learned how to really speak up for yourself and not take shit. And I think those are your exact words.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, like, what was that like for you to learn that? And how'd your family react to that?
Um, I mean, so yes, growing up, when I said I'm not the ideal youngest child, I would always speak up. I would always speak up in the sense of like, why do I have to do this? Why is this me? Why is all of this, right? And which was always shut with like, just do it, or just because it's like we we like they didn't even know the answer, so it's just like you just do it, you know. And um so yeah, but I realized that because I was shut down a lot in my marriage, in my first marriage, that I wasn't going to allow that again of me. I wasn't going to allow that voice to be quieted anymore. I wasn't going to, like, of course, there's proper ways to say things. Like, you can say the same thing two different ways and it can be taken two different ways, right? And we've all learned that being in therapy ourselves. And so,
That's the truth.
yeah. So I think like I didn't want to keep quiet anymore. If I want like whoever, like friendships are big for me, like relationships are big for me, and like how do you how can you still say what you want and have it coming across so that people will listen to you, you know? And so, yeah, because not being respected for a very long time, it can get it can get to you after a while because it's not fair. Nobody should be not respected, and it's not just by one person, it's by multiple people too. It wasn't just in my relationship, it was also at the previous work I was at. So it was always being told to, you know, not say anything or be respectful. Like, it's like, I don't know.
I think I get it. It's
Yeah.
like as you describe being the non-ideal child in an Asian family.
Yeah.
I think about myself and my own upbringing and a ton of my friends and how like I think just in Asian culture in general, and I know you and I differ in the diaspora of like Asian culture, but
Yeah.
Asian culture in general, it's like keep it behind the curtain, keep like behind the scenes, stay back of the crowd,
Right.
don't speak up. Otherwise, it's like disrespectful. Otherwise, we're taking up too much space or we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm hearing you say finding that voice came so early. And then along the way, it was like losing it just felt inauthentic to you. And then
Absolutely.
growing back to really taking up that space once again and even demanding that for yourself
Yeah.
seems liberating.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think as I got older, I realized that if you don't speak up for yourself, then people will run all over you,
Mm.
you know? And again, in a very polite way, of course. And, not to make anybody else demeaning or anything of that nature either while you're doing it. So yeah, it's a lot of learned lessons, and just even lately, like in the last few years, just after grad school, how much I've changed and more open I've become, or just I don't know. It makes me feel good that I can do that for myself, and nobody wants to see me quiet actually. So yeah. So
Okay.
I would take shit from anybody.
From when I know you, for as long as I've known you, That is the truth. That is true. You heard it from the source here first. And now you're in wonderful relationship with someone I have grown to love myself, lol. And I'm wondering, you also mentioned something along the lines of you just visited Portugal and Spain.
Yes.
How amazing. I want to spend some time there.
Yes.
But when you did, you said like in this last episode, you mentioned there were some times where you got in tiffs, you and Lowell, and like we're able to work through that together. We're able to just have that be just a tiff rather than like a big argument.
Right.
Has that always been the case in your relationship, or how have you built that culture together?
Oh, that's such a great question. You are lying when you said you've been studying. Um, so again, when I started dating, I told Lowell, I told Lowell that one of the biggest things if we're gonna be together is communication. And like open and honest communication. Like we're not going to, stay mad at each other for 3-4 days. We're not gonna ignore each other. We're not like, communication is a key because that's what went wrong in my previous marriage. And so, but there's also how do we communicate with one another in the sense of, so when like everybody gets pissed off, like we don't have a perfect relationship, but I've noticed that even like an 80% good relationship is great, but then like how are you able to solve that 20% when you are angry at somebody? That's what makes it key to a great relationship, regardless if you're married or with somebody or whatever the case may be. And so I think because I'm so in love with him that like
Listening, you heard it.
yeah, that it's hard to stay mad at somebody when you're like in love. And the thing is that there's no ill will. Like, there's no, like, I mean, earlier in our relationship, it was kind of difficult because I didn't know how to argue, right? I was so used to arguing in one way with my past relationship that nobody, like, if they argue, you're not taught how to argue, right? Like, and so, but I mean, you try to use all the resources that you have, and as a therapist, like he's telling me, he was like, "Don't therapize me," you know.
I've heard it.
Yeah. But it's hard not to because you get into that like, what is he thinking? What is going on? All of this stuff.
What did I hear that maybe they didn't say? I heard.
Right, exactly, and so, but I think more so, I didn't want our tiffs to ruin our vacation. Like, I don't know about you, but have you ever been on vacation with somebody and when you just get into a fight, it just ruins the whole entire vacation? And because of resentment or whatever the case may be. And so, yeah, like 10 days being with a partner for for 10 days, it's all the time. It's, it can get challenging sometimes. But I mean, but in the end, we laugh about it. It was just a misunderstanding it was like, I think it was even more about like, what food do you want every day? The everyday question of what do you want for dinner, So even traveling is like, what do you want for dinner tonight? So but yeah, I wasn't going to let those tiffs kind of ruin our vacations. And I think because I was just so happy that we were there and I didn't want to it literally reset my nervous system. And I was like, I don't have the energy, like I'm going to just zone here in this very calm zone. And I think he notices that too, is that like, usually my stress levels are up here, but like in Spain and Portugal, I was like, all right, let's go with it. You know?
I've had some dear friends visit Spain. They've only came back with good news. They love it and have talked to Sam and I about moving over there, just how much they love it. And hey, from hearing from you, now it's two for two. From like Spain, Portugal, that area.
I
Sounds like
know.
life's good.
Absolutely. And the thing is just like you see how they live, even though they don't make a lot of money. But importance of friends. Like it's not like here where we're just rush every single day, or at least like a few times a week, they're seeing their friends during the week, you know, making it important, right? Versus like scheduling out, like, oh, okay, in 3 months I could see you, right?
Yeah.
So they work and they, but they take breaks during the day, as everyone should, and they get to go hang out with their friends, and for a little bit, have a drink, have some wine and tapas, then go finish work at like 5 o'clock or whatever.
Totally. I think that value of connection that Spain and similar countries have is so admirable
Mm-hmm.
and like it's so foreign at the same time, especially growing up over here.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, yeah, my family would lean more collectivistic and yet being surrounded by the culture of individualism.
Yeah.
It's hard not to be on that go mode that you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just like slowing down. And so I've kind of been, I brought that back with me. I'm like, I'm just gonna be, like I think a couple weeks ago or last week, I was telling Will, I was like, I had to do this, I had to do this, and I had to do this. And he was like, you need to like slow your roll. Just in Spain. And I was like, all right, and because you can get so caught up with so many things, like, like Sam this morning had to go do grocery runs and all like, adult stuff. And it's like, yeah, just be it and enjoy it, right? So
It's easy to get caught up in the rush of life, for sure. Where it's like these things need to get done, and if we're not slowing down to enjoy the life that we're living or enjoy the people that we're with, then that sense of fulfillment that I think you're describing here, that you felt in Spain and Portugal, this won't happen
right,
for you.
right. Oh, well, the other night at the gala or the fundraising, I think, we had our self-space table, and everybody was asking me about Spain and Portugal and how my trip was, and I was just like, Rachel, our boss, she was just like, just bring it here, and I was like, yeah, we are, and we just kind of all like were laughing and joking, and with everyone, like with our like colleagues, and it was just really nice just to be in that moment, and not have to worry about the time or not have to worry about, oh my God, where am I going next? It was just being with like our colleagues, which is, they're a wonderful group of people to work with. And I was able to enjoy, the event the other night because of that, so.
Oh, that event was so fun.
It was so fun. Yeah. Such a good cause.
Right. Such a good, resource for the community, for sure. I'm glad that all of y'all showed up today because that felt really important to me. And like I spent it was like 20 or 30 minutes talking to someone I didn't know.
I saw
on check-in. He like mentioned Richard, if you're listening, here we are. He mentioned his car, and then I sat with him and I was like, so tell me more about this Forerunner you got. And then we just went on and on. And I got into talking about like my history of like getting my first car, and we were talking about Japanese made cars. And like that is just, I think, the slowing down to have these genuine connections, especially with people you don't know or people you do know, so important to general life satisfaction.
Absolutely.
I think are overlooked, interestingly enough, by many people because, again, that cycle of rush in life, it's so easy to get caught in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like, and that's the thing. It's just one conversation led to another conversation for you.
Right.
Right. And so it's just like when you're enjoying that like time or being like just being. And it allows you to really connect, even with someone that you don't know. So
Totally.
because people have a lot of things in common, much more than they think that they do. Like do not, and so even by talking about cars or trips or food, whatever the case might be, you can always connect with somebody.
Right.
So
What do you think makes it so hard for people to connect with strangers or connect with even their peers that they've known a long time?
yeah, I think a lot of it stems from one, if they're introverts,
Mm.
um, that is one thing. But then another thing is just like self critical of yourself, right? Like, am I gonna say the right thing? Am I gonna like, is this person going to even understand my sarcasm? Or am I like, it's like so much of like, oh my God, are they gonna like me? Are they gonna, just do like, am I gonna make a fool out of myself? So if all these questions are running through someone's head,
Yeah.
then it's just like like you get anxious, and then that whole spiral happens, and then it's just like, all right, never, I'm never gonna talk to that person anyway. So
Or the opportunity
yeah,
is gone.
right, exactly. So because yeah, I think interview style or even like even just vibing with someone else like at an event, all these things like yeah, of course people have a couple of drinks and then they get all loose and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But
You got my podcast model.
yes. Yeah. um so I think a lot of the self-criticism and then what they've gone through growing up, it's like, or like friendships, or it's like, I don't know. It's you get very self-critical of yourself, of somebody's judging.
Yeah.
So
I think it's so hard because, like, at least in my belief, anxiety does play a role in our lives to protect us in various ways.
absolutely.
And, it tends to blockade us from, I mean, from many different things, from us living our lives, from us having these connections. And from what you're saying, I mean, I'm just thinking back to what you said just a bit ago about you and Lowell, how you figured it out, and like through arguments and slowing down and like really addressing things that could be coming up,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, it happens so fast. I think I hear it all the time, like with my couples that I see, um, of how there's so much going on in the background that they're not even aware of that they can't slow down to. And when they do, they're like, oh yeah, this is reminding me about how like my mom talked to me when I was a kid or something like that. Or this was reminding me of this one time.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm so afraid to ask you or tell you that the way you said this to me really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Um, and I bring that all up to say, like, you work with couples too. How have you brought some of what you're talking about here and like the anxiety language, or like the worries language and your own experience, building, navigating arguments in your relationships to your couples?
Yeah. Um, it depends from couple to couple, but like, it's really getting to know each other's style. Like when you're in a, as a therapist, when you're sitting and observing, I love watching how couples argue actually.
Mm.
It is so fascinating, and seeing, and I'll just let it play out actually for a good 5 to 7 minutes to really get their full experience, and me just watching. And they'll do it in the sense of like, depending on how long I've seen them, or, how mad they are coming in. Even body language tells, right? That's why I love couples in person, because you can tell a lot by body language. But like, people don't even realize they're saying bad stuff, or they don't realize how they're hurting the other person by, you know, the word choices that they use, because it's just so much stuff is going through their head and they're just spitting it out and not slowing down and thinking about it. And one of the things that with me and Lowell, like sometimes when I'm processing it, like I tell him, I'm like, okay, I think I'm just processing this while I'm just talking out loud, right? You know, and he was like, well, he tries to follow me, but he was like, okay, you process while you figure it out, and then come to me. But I do have to slow down and see what I'm talking about. And so, and that's what I observed with couples is that they have, like you said, they have so much stuff in their head, like with work, with families, with, the holidays coming up, or some sort of like one person has to go to soccer, but the other kid goes to dance. Like it's, or multiple activities and all these things that they don't realize how, like, that's what anxiety is like, because the amount of things you got to do.
Mm.
And if you don't, like, when people forget, oh my God, I forgot to bring drinks for the kids this time around. And I'm like, I'm the mom who volunteered to do so. Because they had a million other things that is on their mind. So it's like, how, and I'm not saying kids are not important. Like, by all means, you gotta like, parenting is a gift to these parents. Um, but then it's also that same language that you're using at work, or you're using, like, how you talk to your husband or your kids, because they're not in the same room as you, right? Like, in the sense of, like, I work with a lot of people in the tech industry. And so, there's a lot of like meetings and a lot of like due dates and a lot of, if you don't do something, then you're going to be cut or something or another, always being threatened by your job or whatever, like taking it from you. And so people get so wrapped up around that, they don't realize how they're being with their partner.
Yeah. I know. I'm thinking just as you're saying, like, how easy it is for our, if we're at full capacity in our minds, how easy it is for us to be short with our partners or with friends or with family or whomever. Because the capacity to be with others is already so small.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think couples don't like it when I'm like, yeah, you got in this argument. Tell me what was going on in the day, or tell me what was going on in the week, or even over the past hour
Right.
before this argument, because that's all relevant.
Yep.
And I hear it a ton where it's like, well, they still shouldn't have said this. And I'm like, I agree. Maybe they shouldn't have. And what is it like to know that, gosh, they had this terrible meeting with their boss. They skipped lunch because this meeting went long. Whatever.
Right.
All of this was leading up to it. If you had known that, how would this conversation have gone?
Right. And so, yeah, that's one of the things. It's just like, do you preface why you're being short? Like, or the other person is like, hey, I've noticed you being on edge. Is everything like, is this even related to us? And I've had couples use this system and tactic, right? In this sense of like, and I'm like, oh my God, make sure it works. And I'm like, yeah. Or if you preface it like, I just need to vent, and I just need to vent. And the other person can be like, go for it, by all means, I'm all yours, and it allows it allows the other person to see how much is going on in their head. And it's like, oh my goodness, like, babes, how can I help you? Kind of like, or come here, I'm gonna give you a hug.
Right.
Like, that does seem a lot. Like, slowing down and knowing that your partner is going through so much, and vice versa, it allows that's where a lot of the arguments can slow down or not be as intense.
Yeah. Or even when they're already intense, that's how you can stop that intensity.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's so interesting that like I think again, this is something that clients don't like to hear because they're like, give me that golden ticket or give me that one thing I could say that would just get us on the same page or end our argument.
Right.
That's like that one thing is like loving your partner in that moment.
Right.
We're trying to be understanding or being open. Or if you can't get there, asking for time to get there
Yeah.
because you respect this relationship so much.
Right.
You know, and when you can do that, you'll find that maybe the problem is a lot more simple than what the argument made it to be.
Yeah.
It's like for Sam and I, we figured out, and as a couples therapist, I think couples will come in and they're like, you just got to figure it out, never argues with his partner. Wrong.
No.
And most of our arguments stem from like when I'm hungry. And like,
yes.
yeah, this Sam's gonna listen to this and be like, "Yep, exactly." And she knows it way before I do. Sometimes I'm being short with her, I'm being short with the dog. She's like, "You need to eat something before we go out because I'm not having a not so good. I'm not having a shitty time. If we could just solve this with like some food,
Right.
But again, there's that knowing the partner, knowing me well enough, and me being able to be like, you know what, you're right. Like my fault, actually. Let me go eat a protein bar or whatever it is, so then we can have a good time together.
Right.
Where it's like that slowing down, where I could very well be like, no, you're wrong. You know, this is actually like very upsetting or all that stuff. When really I just need a bite to eat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's like, yeah, when Will starts getting short with me, I know, like, okay, it is around that dinner time. I should like, all right, I need to pick something, and we just need to go eat because afterwards, you know. But I think that's anybody though, right? Like, in the sense of like being hungry or skipping breakfast or having, traffic being insane in Seattle, raining 30 drops, and it was like, oh my goodness.
Well,
Like,
slamming on brakes.
slamming on brakes, honking on the horn, like, flipping people off. Like, all right. It's like, well, you get there 2 minutes sooner or not, It's fun. How many of those incidents can be nuts?
Yeah. And all of that, I mean, again, coming back, contributes to these arguments people are having, arguments that we're having with our partners.
Yeah.
And if we're not slowing down to name those things, then we're missing a big part of this part of the context that is important for our part.
Absolutely. But as a disclaimer, I feel like we always have to disclaim things. If there's violence or domestic violence or abuse or anything of that nature, then of course, like, that's a different story. This is when we work in a place that is not that crisis centered at our practice, so we're lucky about that. So, but yes, just wanted to make that.
Totally. So if you haven't got it yet, Amisha's a well-trained, skilled, and ethical therapist and couples therapist, family therapist. What made you choose the relational work? Because often I hear that relational work is the hardest therapy to do. What made you get into it?
So when I was choosing to go, like, to become a therapist, which, I was in the corporate world myself, degrees, undergrad in marketing and business management. And I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful, in the sense of after my divorce, the amount of people that helped me and stuff like that, I was like, I feel like I need to, I don't know, quote unquote, repay people, or like, I want to send this message moving forward, it's like, because the amount of people, new people even coming into my life and like helping me out. And And so I always had this thing of like, I want to help people. And so because it was during the pandemic, um, I chose Capella University, an online university based out of Minneapolis. Um, One, because cost, of course. Second, because of just I was also working and gonna be going to school. So it's like, how will this work with my schedule? And basically a lot of the local schools were just being online anyways. So I went with Capella and I was looking at both in their description, marriage and family therapy or mental health counseling. And for some reason, I just kept on gravitating towards the marriage and family therapy program. And because a lot of like just growing up myself and being in the Asian community, it's not just an individual person. We're dealing with like anybody that comes and sees me, even if they're an individual. I'm like, how did you like? Who was around you when you grew up? Like, here's like, were you, what kind of household did you live with? Did you live with your grandparents, or what is the connection? Because systemic stuff, even in individual therapy, says a lot about someone.
Yeah.
The environment that you were in, and especially when two people come from two different environments, right? It can be so, it can be different. Like one person being in a, I don't know, in a divorced household growing up, while the other one had their parents are still, so it's like, but yeah, so that relational part, like I just kept on gravitating towards, and knowing that I wanted to work with South Asian community, I'm like, it's all relational, right? And in the sense of your background and everything of that nature. So that's how I chose marriage family therapy as very,
It's all relational.
it's all relational.
Isn't that the Washington
Yep.
MFT
Yes.
slogan podcast?
Yes. It's all relational. I mean, that's their tagline.
Yeah.
So
And very true.
yeah.
And you were on that to advertise your podcast.
I was.
How was it to be on that and be the first time you're really marketing yourself in your podcast?
It was insane. Like in the sense of I had met him at the conference earlier like in September, and the fact is that he wanted me on so quickly, and it's like I've never done a podcast in my life, like, and talking about yourself, and I'm just like, oh, now I get why like celebrities have to go and talk about the whatever movie they're shooting about, like, all of the interviews and or even musicians, whoever, right? It felt weird in a way talking about yourself and talking about this podcast and promoting it. And but it was so cool at the same time, like having that experience, even being here, having this experience and talking to like-minded people about podcasting, about like your work. It really it was scary. I was anxious for sure. But it was fun because I knew that I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was I was like, oh wow, my first, live.
And you did great. I mean,
Thank you.
again, biggest fan. Watched that one even. It wasn't even on this giant. I'm just following Amisha around.
That's true.
But no, I'm glad. I'm glad you did that. And again, I can't stress enough just how glad I am you're doing this for the community. Again, it's so important and impactful. I think it's something our conversation about what goes on in our heads, in our relationships, and what goes on in our heads, as far as like anxiety goes. Something I experience like currently as like live podcasting in preparation for a podcast, all that being the experienced podcast. What do you have a routine before you record your episodes? To work with that thought process or anxiety?
I do a lot of like my podcasts are on a topic, so it's very structured in the sense, and it's not. I have a lot of notes, and I have a guide that I go by, and basically, like I write them all out as I'm thinking about how I want. And so, I didn't realize I was a writer in that sense, like, but I guess it's fun because my my mind is very creative in the sense of like that's why I chose marketing, right? And so the fact is I can be creative again in this, and I'm creative in my as a therapist as well, but like I'm doing my own thing like this, but really. So there's a lot of prep behind the scenes before I get started. And then, of course, I have a very supportive husband that, when I tell him I'm going to go record, he's like, all right, cool. I'll like get my stuff ready. My animals are a big part of my day in the sense of, I don't know if you guys saw the last episode, but, you know, my cat and my two dogs, they play actually a very important role in my life in the sense of they'll follow me to the podcast room and they'll sit on the couch and kind of like they're my emotion support like animals, and so I get this sense of calmness around them. But I think it's like vice versa, in the like I give them calmness too, right? And so I just get comfortable and I have a couch in my podcast and I have pillows and everything. And then I'm just able to just record and really kind of I practice a couple of times to see if my flow is right, see if I'm hitting all the points or if something else comes to my mind that I want to add in. And then I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready. So it's probably like a, I don't know, 2-3 hour process, I would think, before even from the time I get things ready to the end of my episode. And then after that, if Will's available, I'll ask him to listen to the episode so that he can like tell me what's wrong, what's this, what's that, because I can critique so much when I'm listening to my own episode. And then,
oh my God,
from a fellow podcaster. And so, but then, he's really good in the sense of like, you kind of want some of the stuff to be raw. You want them to see how you're not this cookie cutter podcaster. Right. And I was like, that's true. That's not my mission. Right. And so, so then it like, yeah. So and then sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 takes to really see what version I like or what versions I want to blend together. So that it can, if I feel authentic in one area versus another area or something. So yeah, it's not like anything wild or anything of that nature.
Not doing like 20 push-ups.
No, not at all. It's supposed to be like a laid back kind of, vibe. So
I think something about having a very supportive partner in anything that we do as human beings is so helpful. I mean, because I think confidence itself can get shot so quickly by our own selves, being self-critical, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Or just thinking too hard about things. And Sam's the same way with me.
Yeah.
Where she's like, this is a real conversations podcast. Are we going to have real conversations? Are we not going to have real conversations? And like, that's helpful for me because I'm like, oh, you talk about my emotions.
Yeah.
That's so therapist of me.
Right.
It's like, no, shut up. We're just going to do this. We're going to get it out. And like, you're going to say what you say. And right. That's just what it's going to be because you are human. And that's exactly why we're doing the podcast.
Right.
And I think you and I share the same mission in that way, just to be human in a profession where, we show up almost so neutral for this other party who's with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you, when working with with someone who is of the same cultural ethnic background as yourself, how do you include your experience in the process, and how do you keep some things out, or do you?
Mm. Um, it depends on how long I've done them,
Mm.
right? And where it could be relevant. And so, like, if someone is going through a hardship of a relationship or work or whatever the case may be that they're talking to me about, um, and I don't know, I sometimes get this intuition of like, or this feeling of they, they, they feel alone. They feel like it's only happening to them. And so, but I ask, I'm like, hey, do you want to hear something that you like about myself that could possibly help or just like share? And sometimes they're like, yes, I mean, actually, a lot of times they're like, yes. And so I just share a glimpse and telling them that I've been through this too. I know a lot of other people have been through this too. And I think it kind of calms their nerves a bit because of course when you're going through something and you're in therapy and we're so like one of the greatest things that I love being a therapist is how much information people tell us. And we have to keep it to ourselves.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We carry what, like 15 to 20 stories a week, like more sometimes, 20, 25 stories
Yeah.
each week. And we have to show up so differently with every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, people ask me all the time too, in the sense of like, how do you do this? How do you carry so much?
I was gonna ask you that question.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
It's interesting when you first, of course, an intern year, you're just like, oh my God, like my boss actually, like, this is what I prepared for,
Right.
you know? But I think it's like, some days are hard. I will say. So, like, I mean, some days are hard because you feel. I'm with them in the sense of, because I do a lot of feeling and emotion work.
Mm.
And so, like, I get to their level in the sense of, like, and so it's hard not to feel. I sometimes cry with them,
Mm.
like, just because I'm a therapist, that doesn't mean I don't have emotions. That doesn't mean I'm going to sit here with a clipboard and write down all these. No, we hate diagnosis.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of our pet peeves as a therapist, I would say, is like, and because you're more than a diagnosis. You're more than just this code that we have to give insurance company, And so it's like, I think, like, I only share when I think it's replicable or it needs to be, but I always ask, and sometimes I don't share because I'm like, it's not really relevant. So I kind of get like sense of the mood of
Totally.
what needs to be shared because I don't know. I mean, they should know a little bit about me too. Like they're sharing their whole entire life. If they know a little glimpse of me, like it's gonna make it's okay,
Mm-hmm. I was just having this conversation with a friend who I went to school with, like this very same conversation just last week over the phone. And we were just talking about like this idea of the therapist being 100% neutral or taking up little space in the therapy room, at least in our opinion, seems very outdated, especially if we're telling our clients that we truly want them to build a relationship with us, and showing them that, or like through our work, showing them that relationships are two-sided. But what about the relationship right in the room?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yes, I agree with you that most things, and I think many clients don't know, like on our side of the room, we're thinking a lot about what we're saying. We're thinking a lot about how much we're going to include ourselves in this, because taking up space, especially theirs in that space, is something we want to be very careful about. And I think as the profession grows, is becoming more and more acceptable. And I think clients are just more for it. Like they want to know who we are. They want to be able to relate, especially as more clients of color start to seek out services. That's a big part of our culture. To relate to the person across from us in a way, to build trust, to build confidence in the person, to build confidence within ourselves.
Absolutely.
And if we're holding back for the sake of, like, without actually thinking about what holding back is doing, like just for the sake of the job, and we're almost doing a disservice to our clients.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I feel like because when we share a little bit about our lives and when it's relevant, I think it brings us closer. It builds that relational aspect that what we want, right? And they're willing to tell us even more, you know? I see adolescents, and one of the things that the reason why I started seeing adolescents, well, my internship year, I was at the fantastic internship where I was able to work with a lot of them. And I noticed that nobody wants to listen to. Nobody thinks that their voice matters. Nobody thinks that what they say is any relevant. It's like, oh, this teenager, what would they know? You know? And so when they come into my room, or when the parents bring them, their parents are like, all right, I need XYZ 1, 2, 3, this is all going on. And then they'll leave the room, and I'm like, that's wonderful that your mom or dad gave me this information. But what about you? What do you think is going on with yourself? Is there something going on with yourself? Or is that just, and really getting to their level?
Right. I think so many parents come in and are like, here's my child, fix them.
Right.
And that's so hard.
Right. Exactly. And then the child is like, what's like that identity of how am I so bad that this person is going to fix? And it kind of gives that bad reputation. Like, we're not doctors. We're not like, a pediatrician where it's like, all right, you have a cold, I'm going to prescribe you some child Motrin or something like that, right? And so they get this negative kind of connotation on therapy. And so, even regardless of what age you are, and if you don't even stick with me, or if you pause therapy, or whatever the case may be, I want you to have a good experience in therapy. I'm going to get on your level. If you don't want to talk about something, that's okay. We can move on. But I'm going to try my hardest to be on your level wherever we want to start from.
Yeah.
I
get that. I think so many people come in, kids, because their parents say they need it. Now they've adopted this narrative or label of, I'm a problem and I need fixing. Where it's like that, yeah, you're right. It starts off like that's the narrative that we kind of have to work through and build this trust that doesn't have to be the only thing.
Right.
Or like others who, like, I've been getting in a lot of fights at home, and my husband or my wife or my partner is telling me that I need to go to therapy, so that's why I'm here.
Right.
Again, similar narrative, different context.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to be like, oh, okay, but what do you want?
Right.
Like, why do you think you're here though? Or like, do you even want to be here?
Right.
And if not, like, you don't, like, I'm not going to force you to be here.
Exactly.
I want to help you in the way you want.
Right.
But if someone else is labeling that for you, then I don't know if there's much I can do for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then it's like gives this this bad it's like, oh, you need to go to therapy. Like therapy's gonna fix you magically. And then that self-critic, like, okay, I am the problem. I am going through this. How, and then you start doubting yourself, and then all these negative things reinforce, right? Of if I'm that bad, I need to go to a shrink or whatever, or they're gonna totally diagnose me, and you know, and it's not fair. It's not fair of how sometimes therapy is used,
Yeah.
you know, because I tell clients, even in a consult, I'm like, they're like, how long is it gonna take? Oh man.
What a question.
Right.
I wish I knew.
And like I tell people, well, I mean it really depends. I like them as years go on by and it's being more sure of like, the therapist that I am. I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, I people I've had people that have been here for 2 years, and they're like 2 years. They still haven't gotten their stuff like together, and it's just like it all depends, right? And it's just like, well, the therapy part, yes, you're in my session for 55 minutes, but it's the work you do outside that is gonna make the difference. I don't see you only for that hour I see you.
Yeah, you got the rest of the week.
You have the rest of the week. If you and your partner are not communicating and the only time you guys are communicating is in this session, we have a problem here. How is this session like how are you going to be able to apply the stuff that we do learn in here outside? I don't need a minute by minute recap of your argument that's going to take up 45 minutes of session.
Yeah.
And some people do want to do that, but I'm like, okay, let's kind of recap. What are the main highlights that you saw in this argument or whatever that needs to be addressed?
Oh, I love that. The main highlights. I feel like so many, especially couples, come in and want you to hear the story because they feel like the story is the only way you'll get it. And I'm like, shit, tell me the story.
Right.
Tell me the story. And like, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to stop you because like this part of the story, we missed each other here and we're not talking too much about that.
Yeah.
Like whatever comes next, sure, we'll get there. Give me the highlights. Give me the play-by-play. But we're going to come back to where we missed each other emotionally. We're going to come back to when we saw this look and then you felt already shut out.
Right.
We're going to come back to those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so like it really depends on you as a person. I've been in therapy for like 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I actually love going to therapy because I get to share my perspective, share this, and like it's my freaking hour. And then like I'll let my therapist talk too, in the sense of like, I want your expertise. What do I need to do? Like, so it allows, not saying that something's been wrong with me the whole 13 years, but I've been able to use a lot of the stuff in my life. And therapy is not for the here and now, it's also for the future. Like people think it's just for, this phase of my life. No, some of the stuff that we do in here, you may not use it until 5 months later. And then when you use it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I see what she was saying. And it's funny because 7 months later, they'll be like, oh, that thing that you said in therapy? I'm like, what did I say in therapy?
I said a lot of things.
Right, exactly. And they're like, no, and then they recap, and I was like, oh, how did it work out for you? And they're like, oh my God, it worked, or oh my God, it didn't work. Or like, I knew at that moment it wasn't going to, be relevant, but I tried anyways. And I'm just like, that's amazing. The fact is that you tried. You tried. I don't have the golden ticket. Like, we don't have the golden ticket. We're going to try. If it's a complete fail, at least you know.
Right. You put in the effort, you can see yourself doing so.
Exactly.
It's already a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so many things here. And I don't know even where to start, but I feel like therapy is often thought of as you come in with a challenge and it's point A. And like by the time you get done with that challenge, I'm throwing air quotes up for
Yeah.
those just listening, um, then you're done with therapy.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like, yeah, that's one piece of the puzzle. And the longer term work comes with, oh, it's just so nice to have this space where I can be authentically me, where I could talk about these different things in my life. Either just figure it out, celebrate with somebody, be sad and grieve with somebody. And all of that is therapy. And that can last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you have this long-standing problem that your therapist is incompetent to fix.
Yeah.
It's that like the space is just so different from every other space
Exactly.
in people's lives most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And which yeah, like yeah, I like yeah, that is so true in the sense of like, when people do come in crisis mode, right? And they like we meet pretty regularly, and then once the crisis has kind of subsided, they're like, all right, we can move to by weekly or monthly or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, no. Like unless of course for financial reasons and whatever else, and but I like you to come in weekly or bi-weekly max, because we still have a lot more to go. You just didn't get into this crisis mode today. It was months building up to why it became a crisis mode. And so let's work on behind the scenes, the root cause of this crisis. For when a different crisis comes up, it may not be exactly the same crisis, but something else coming up, right? How do you cope with just regular stuff?
Yeah.
So, and then they're like, oh, I didn't really think about that.
Mm-hmm. I'm so in agreement with you here, where I'm like, yeah, there's so much to explore. Like, let's keep this going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about, like you and I, of course, are on the same page because we see the work the same. We do the work pretty similarly. I'm learning more so today as you're talking. I'm just thinking about the clients who are like, okay, yeah, but I came in, addressed this problem, and now this person's telling me like I got so much more. Are they just making this up? Like, are they just trying to keep me because, I'm paying them and like they're only worried about themselves? Like, what do you say to those clients who are like, therapy is just this ploy to keep you in the chair and make you keep thinking about all these things that weren't problems in the first place? And now all of a sudden, because we're in the space of someone, they're problems.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, mind you, it's not for fun. Definitely not. I think it's just, of course, like anybody has free will to end therapy when they want, right? But the thing is that I explained to them, like, what about this, and this? Like, because, they're sharing all of this information with us, right? And you pick up on certain things that you're like, oh, I'm going to bookmark this to come back later because it's not relevant. And so I use their language, but you told me this, you told me this a little while ago in a couple sessions beforehand. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So it's not a ploy to keep you, in the sense of I just want to find more problems. It's much more, you said something that struck me and you didn't even realize it until I brought it up a few weeks later. So,
hello, cameo from Gracie.
Yeah.
If you could hear that. No, I love that. I love that answer. It's not that I'm trying to just pull problems out of our assholes. It's the fact that, like, you said this and you're important to me and I want to spend time there.
Yeah.
Because maybe no other person in your life is spending time there.
Right.
When, so like client can have whatever reaction they want, but I think our job is to ask these questions and show them just how much we care.
Exactly. Exactly. And maybe we will move to bi-weekly,
Sure.
We need to.
I think she'll be okay.
Okay.
If she keeps going for like the next 2, then I'll go make sure she's okay. But I think she's all right.
All right. Love our animals. Um, yeah, it is about, them having that space, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know, when somebody emails me abruptly saying, hey, I think I'm at a good spot right now. And I'm like, okay, great. Whenever you feel like coming back, feel free to reach out. Or if you want resources for something that I can't provide for you, by all means. I don't want to end on bad blood here. This is not like, it's not corporate style where I'm going to just cut you off or whatever. It's a much more, at this moment, if you need to pause, we can pause and we can come back to it and whenever you're ready. Like, you know my email, and we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because it isn't about the bucks. It isn't about like trying to find more problems. It's about us wanting to help in areas that you may not realize it needs to be touched upon.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that answer so much because I think in my training and even in supervision I receive now, it's like a client, it's this awareness as a therapist that clients will always come in with the primary issue, which is often the most important issue to address right in the moment. And in them talking about their primary issue, there comes all these secondary or tertiary issues that are like, should be the primary issue, but isn't like the most pressing top of mind for the client.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, it's like this sense of I'm getting in so many arguments or tiffs with my partner that we can't manage. And underneath, like there's this looming sense of loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
or there's this depression that comes with the season, or there's this question as to if my partner actually is the one for me for the rest of my life, and I don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And like all of that is there. All the while we're just focusing on communication. All the while the client's like, if we just figured out how to communicate, all these other questions would just, be answered or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And our job is to like ask and spend time in the questions that maybe clients don't feel like comfortable enough to ask.
Right.
And it's not, and what I hear you saying, like, it's not this pleading for them to stay around or pay us more money or keep them in the chair. It's a sense of like, we hear what you're saying. And maybe everybody else in your life dismisses that, but we're going to try our best not to be the one who does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And I guess kind of looping back to an earlier question of like, how do, like, like as therapists, how do we not take on so much or whatever? I do think about my clients, I think about like, sometimes when they have shared something with me, I'm like, damn it, why didn't I ask more about that? Like that drive home from work, it's a 25-minute drive home, and I kind of reflect on like, man, I should have done more. Or next time I'm going to ask this. And so it's like, because we're so in tune with what they say, or at least like you and I are, very in tune. So,
how do you manage that? Being outside of the work, outside of the office, thinking about clients and worrying about how they're doing, or worrying about how you spend time in session.
Supervision's great.
Yeah.
And it was actually like before leaving to go to Portugal and Spain, because I've never taken off 2 weeks before to go on vacation in the last few years. And it was worrisome. But the thing is just like I I can't. Sometimes we want to solve the problems, right? Because we feel it so deeply. We care for our clients so deeply that we want to be able to be that you know that person to solve everything, but we're not, you know. And it's okay. So I have to keep telling myself like it's okay, you know. I'm we're gonna figure it out together, right? Because I don't need to do this alone. Because in our consultations too, right? It's just like the feedback we get when we're stuck, or like, you know, if we have something that we really are passionate about a certain client, and we want to be able to get that, uh, get more, like, get more out of the session than it is doing consultation. It is talking about like to our colleagues, or supervisor about certain things. At first, I used to take on a lot, but then I realized I can't do that to be a good, like, I need to show up for every single person, you know.
Yeah.
And having a 3-day weekend is very important, you know. um, Laughing and talking with, like, about other things, such as the gala the other night, you know. And so, um, it is a lot of laughter is really used. And you know, when I come home, I have my dog Stella greeting me at the door. So she's just so excited to see mom when I'm home and I get home. And that literally just kind of, I can be present being out, like, okay, now I'm home, you know. So it allows me to kind of leave everything out the door and then come in,
Totally.
you know.
I mean, I'm getting the sense that you've learned to really prioritize yourself in order to prioritize others.
Yes.
And like, I wish clients knew just how much we really didn't care about them, because we're spending time in our personal lives thinking about them. We're spending time in our personal lives doing consultation and doing supervision, and, in some cases, at least in my case, paying for supervision so that I can do the best by my client,
Absolutely.
and I mean, that's a whole nother thing with supervision and stuff like that, or clients thinking that because I'm getting supervised, I'm inexperienced. I don't know if you've dealt with that, but like there's a sense of like so much care goes into every client. That's why we can only see so many. Um, yeah, and I bring that all up because I just wish I wish more clients knew just how much the therapist really does care about them and spend time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about their case and thinking about their problems,
Yeah.
how to help them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, I mean, that's why on vacation I don't tell anybody I'm this, you know. um, but yeah, I mean, you said it so perfectly. Like, it is like, especially, it goes to the point that they're sharing their lives with us, and something so important is happening to them that they're like wanting to share it with us. And like sometimes my clients, like when I have back to back, and I go over, the 50-55 mark.
Yeah.
Um, my clients will ask me, they're like, how do you transition? How do you transition?
I love the question.
Mark, how do you?
Oh, how do I transition? Okay, I'm the host of this. Mm. I have worked on my transition time between clients so hard, because of this feeling that you're naming of wanting to show up authentically with every client as much as I can, right? I'm human, and like like Ian said on the podcast episode I had him on, which if you didn't listen, please listen. Like
Very good
attention.
episode.
Thank you. Attention doesn't look the same every session, and like I can't expect that of myself. But I want to show up in the best way that I can. So my transition time is my clients know that by 49, like by 49, and what I mean by that is like by the 49th minute of the hour, they know I'm wrapping up. They know that if they're in the middle of something, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna tie it in a knot and be like, thank you so much for telling that. Let's start next time because I really want to get done by that 50-minute mark.
Yeah.
So then I can have the 10 minutes to write my note, go pee, chat with you in the hall, eat a mango slice or a snack, and then get back to it. And if I'm going over with a client and I have smaller and smaller transition time, I've just found that it's so hard for me to show up in the same way, at least beginning with another client. Or I have to really like say like, fuck my notes, I'm gonna put that to the side, you know, whatever, and I'm just gonna sit with myself, or I'm gonna go take a walk and like get out of the space that I was just holding.
Yeah.
So then the space has time to like renew itself, and I can like go wash my hands in the bathroom and feel like, okay, I can go in however way I'm gonna show up to the next session. But it does take time with myself to really transition to the next space.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Um, it's interesting because in my intern year, both of the private practices that I worked at, they didn't have a hard stop at 50 minutes. So they would like, you go to the hour, right? And then you start with the other client, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so it was very, very different when I started at Self Space. And in the sense of like how much Marcus and Rachel, they emphasize how you need to stop at the 50th minute. And so for the first year, it was very hard for me to stop at the 50th minute. It was very rare, only if I could, like if it was a good stopping place, But then, but then last year when I I tore my ACL and I had surgery and coming back to work, like if I didn't get up by the 50th minute, I would be in pain and it would hurt. And so it kind of got me to stop at the 50th minute so I can stretch and like walk around and like, do whatever exercises I needed to do in that 10 minutes. But it is important, and I do try to stop at the 50th minute so that even though I may not write my notes right away, I think what I like doing is seeing you, seeing Kelly, seeing all our colleagues, and just like, even if it's a quick hi, like, because for me, that allows me to slow down and know that all of us were just in this space for 15 minutes. And we know what it's like. So seeing each other, giving each other a hug, or like sharing a quick something, even if it's a hello in the kitchen, right?
I think that's what I love about group practice.
Oh, absolutely.
Just being around people who get it as therapists, who are like, oh yeah, I was just struggling with a client. I felt really stuck in the session. For me, myself, like client was figuring it out. Me, myself, I don't know where I was.
Right.
And to hear you or some other colleague be like, I get you, me too.
Right.
It's like so helpful to get back like, okay, well, yeah, this is normal. I'm not a shit therapist. Like
Right.
this is what it is. It's just nice to see other people's faces and like get that story.
Absolutely.
So then you could show up in other spaces too.
Absolutely. And I think that's why we have all of us have such a good rapport with one another, at our office, is because we're so comfortable to do so. We are being vulnerable with one another when coming out of some of those hard sessions or stuckness sessions for ourselves. Where are we? Or if it brings up some transference for ourselves, right? And so, to connect with another therapist. I think, you know what, I've noticed, I don't know about your clients, but my clients, when they see all of us together, like colleagues talking or laughing or whatever the case, I think it makes them feel good about where they're at. They're not at just a random therapy office. They're at this place where it seems like, oh wow, the colleagues actually get along, or oh my god, the waiting area is busy today.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so excited when our new associates came on because it did fill the waiting area with more clients, and kind of seeing them back in the office again. It's exciting because you're happy to see them, they're happy to see you, and we have that connection, which then makes us a good therapist.
Totally. I think there's something different about coming to a therapy office, both as client and clinician,
Absolutely.
where it's like alive
Yeah.
and human and well, and you're seeing people smile and laugh and be with each other.
Right.
Because I think that's what therapy is at the end of the day. It's like the ability to learn how to smile, laugh, and be with ourselves and another
Right.
in a comfortable way. And live like Spain and Portugal does.
Absolutely. I love being like Spain and Portugal. Right?
Hey.
Oh. No, and then I think because our boss also has such a great top-down approach, and it allows us to be who we want to be and how we can shine in our own ways and how supportive all of them are going to be. I don't know about you, but I found that Rachel was super supportive when doing any sort of initiative. That she's like, all right, do it, totally support. The other day she was asking how your podcast was going and how my podcast was going, and just, just really invested in our outside work too. Then it makes us want to be better clinicians and show up.
Cool.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, yeah, if I were to ever run a business, I'd take her mentorship class for sure because she just does it so well. And I think the reason it's so well is because she really knows us as human beings and empowers us to be more of ourselves.
Exactly.
And like for me, as you know, from all my anxieties and consult group and everything like that, like me being a younger clinician, me being early in my professional development as an associate licensed clinician, comes with a lot of anxiety of how I show up in the room.
For sure.
And like my interactions with her and Marcus, our other supervisor, has always been from this place of gotta trust yourself because you're here, you're trained, you have your expertise, and you're you. And like that message is always given to me, like, don't forget, like you're you and you are, the most any client can ask for you to be is human.
Yeah.
And like you do that so well. And it has my heart. And I can confidently say I love going to work because I have colleagues like you and like supervisors like Rachel and Marcus and everybody around. It just feels like a warm hug. And I think it's easy to take that and extend it to my clients.
Absolutely.
I hope they can feel that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think having that support allows us to really keep us grounded, keep us wanting to come back to work. The reason why we think about our clients, is because of that, because we're not burnt out from the workspace that we're in, so we are able to focus more on our clients because we know we're being taken care of. I'm telling you, okay, when Mark joined.
What's going on?
I can believe this. When Mark joined, I don't know if you know the story, but like, I was in my office 6 or whatever. I think we had, because Mark and I sometimes we share the same shift. And I think one of the first few times or whatever, you would stop into my office and be like, "Hey, Amisha, hope you have a good session or a good afternoon, or how are you?" And just like, I was like, who is that Rachel hired, and but you just have this very warm like feeling around you, like that really, you know, I was so excited to get to know and just so happy that Rachel had hired you. Though you are a younger clinician, it really like just what you bring to the office and as you bring to your like as yourself to being human. It just really it allows all of us, to slow our roll, and just be human too. Right. And it is hard because I'm an associate as well. I think I mean, I don't have that much more experience than you do, but the fact is that being authentic, being human, trusting ourselves, it's hard, especially in a space where we're trying to, you know, also take care of our clients because
Mm.
we're playing multiple roles.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for saying that.
Of course.
Gosh. Well, we're gonna warm up my heart.
Is it the heart or is it the wine?
That's so sweet. Thank
Yeah.
you. No, it really is important for me to know the place that I'm at and to know the people who I'm around because I mean, like we said somewhere earlier in this, or like you said somewhere earlier in this conversation, there's so many things about people that are similar to ourselves and our stories. That is just important for me in my life in general, outside of being a therapist and outside of being an interview podcaster.
Yeah.
That just, I don't know, feel very fulfilling to me. Like how people are doing, encouraging them because I know in my life, the encouragement has gone a long way. And I want to give that to others. So thank you for noticing that and saying that. I can really digest that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and if Kelly's listening, she knows that this is very hard for me to accept praise and compliments and stuff like that. So I'm going to really take that and sit with it for a while.
Oh.
Yeah. This authenticity that you're talking about, being in the space and being with clients, before my question,
Okay.
how does that everyone as a clinician of color, how are you able to show up authentically with your clients?
My first question to my clients after, of course, the intake and everything like that, like when we get into the second, third, fourth, when I ask, how's it going? How are you? I genuinely mean it. And I want to know. I just don't want to hear like oh, it's going on. No, what's going on? How is the weekend? What was so, I really want, I'm not trying to just start a conversation to start a conversation or just asking you in passing of, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm more, how are you really doing? When somebody says, oh, not much happened, throughout the week. And then when they start sharing, and I'm like, you just said not much happened this week. It seems like a lot happened this week, and they're like, yeah, it did. So it's really, I really want to show up for them in the sense of I care. I care for you. And I'm just not asking how's it going just for the sake of it. It's much more, how are you really doing? Because it really taps in, because a lot of people don't get asked that during the week. They don't get asked what's been going on. How have you really been feeling? Right? And I think that's the authentic part about me, is that I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know. I genuinely want to know Because I feel like if I show up authentically and I create that space, then the client will feel comfortable in that space of showing up authentically too.
Totally. Do you feel like um for different clients and clients of different ethnic backgrounds or cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, do you feel like the answers to the how are you reallys differ?
That's a good question. I didn't really ever think about that. I think it, yeah, I think it does. But if we even put all of those together, nobody really gets asked how they're really doing and genuinely mean,
Mm.
you know, because of crazy laws going on, like we talked about earlier, because they've had so much, their bosses want from them, or, you know, it's like even new clients, when they come to client, like they've never been to therapy before in their first session, like some people have told me they've never opened up as much as they've opened up in their first session because of how authentic I was or I am. Or they didn't realize they were going to cry in their first session. And they're like, I don't know where these tears are. I don't know. Like, you know, every therapist room will have multiple boxes of tissues. I think we all keep those companies employed, like the person who's like because of us. Um, but there people carry so much stuff. And so it's like if I show up authentic, regardless of their background,
Mm.
then I feel like it will make it'll make the space much more comfortable and showing up how they want to show up with me.
Yeah.
You know? Because if I came in again, sitting down all proper with my notebook and just like no expression, nobody's gonna open up to me. Mhm. And sometimes they still won't open up, just, how authentic I am. And it might take time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up where you want me to show up for you.
Wow. Yeah, you're saying that your authenticity, despite who the client um, is that model of behavior that often leads them to feeling authentic themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's a really good book that I read,
Mm.
um, and it's called How We Feel. And it was in just the opening, I think it's in his Mark Brackett, I believe. I heard him on NPR one day when I was coming to work
Mm.
a long time ago. And he's all about emotions and feelings. But in the first few pages of his opening of his book, he was like, nobody had, like, when he was a young kid, like around 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there, nobody asked him how he was doing.
Yeah.
And until his uncle asked him how he is and how he truly wanted to know how he is doing, like this little child. And he bursted into tears because nobody had asked him how he really was doing, because everybody would overlook him because he was a bigger guy. He was getting into fights, he was being bullied, whatever the case may be. And so he was able to share all of that stuff to his uncle, who had asked him, how are you? And not just the surface level, how are you? And so I feel like though that brings a lot of like, I care. You're going to be in this room, even if we don't mesh, which is okay because you're not going to mesh with every single client or every single therapist. But at least you know that I want to know how you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about I had a recent client, and therapy, and they were very ready to end. It was just like, um, yeah, they felt a lot more confidence. I was all that stuff,
Right.
and no, I don't bring this up to applaud my good work as a therapist,
You should.
and their good work, of course, their good work. But more so, it just is reminding me of like as we were ending, they were telling me that, throughout this entire process, you always asked me, like, whatever I was bringing to you, you always asked me, yeah, and at the, yeah, and how is so and so thinking about this? Like, how is client thinking about this? My client's name was Billy. Like, yeah, and where does Billy fit into this?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, yeah, how are you really doing beyond like what everybody else says or beyond what you think you should say?
Right.
Where are you at?
Yeah.
Where does Billy fit into this?
Right.
Where, everybody else has their opinion. Yeah, but what about yours?
Right.
Right. And it's like giving a client the space to really be like, oh, wow, I really matter in this conversation. And I hadn't felt that in so long. Um, it's transformative.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because like that's why it doesn't matter what age you are. I feel like everyone needs to be heard.
Mhm.
Everyone has their own story that they want to share. So, and I like moving into much more modern therapy. And if you're not authentic with them, then how are they going to be authentic with you? So I have people that ask me too, how am I doing?
Mhm.
I even had when clients had ended, they they're like, I felt like you were more of a friend than a therapist. That I felt so comfortable talking with you. And so um,
Me too.
yeah. And it's and it feels so good. Like those are the moments where I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. It makes you feel so like
High praise.
it is high praise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm so grateful of being a therapist, regardless of that comment. But it's just like it makes it even much more greater when you get like compliments, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, I'm so glad I made a difference. I hope it like stays with them.
Yeah, I think you're naming something there that I'm picking out of like, this is often a job that comes with little feedback,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know how you do the work and I can give you feedback and be like, oh, let me show you're such a great therapist. And I know you are.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've never sat in the room with you.
Right.
And to hear it from a client where we don't hear it often, yeah, it feels so good because it's like, oh, yeah, this is having an impact. And we therapists, we need that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's like we want and care again so much about our clients that it is nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, yeah, getting that praise or getting that, like I've gotten emotional with my clients too. I cry with them. I think it's, why not? I like, especially if we're getting that deep,
Right.
Yeah, I feel and when you do that, that shows up a lot of authenticity too.
Totally. And like to feel for a client to feel like they're talking to a friend while also knowing that we play such a interesting role as friend, but as friend who will challenge,
Exactly.
as friend who will like be curious, as friend who will like not let you like bullshit yourself into certain cycles or whatever.
Yeah.
Having both of those at once feels so special.
Yeah.
And then hearing that they see you still, even with your challenges, even with the way you do your therapy as a friend, goes such a long way.
It really does. It really does. Absolutely.
Mm.
That brings me up to another thing. Like one time with a different couple, this person was saying something and I blurted out, that's bullshit. And I felt so bad. And but it got like it got them to be like, oh yeah. Like, he got like, and I didn't mean to blurt. Then I apologize. Uh, I wasn't calling them a bullshitter, but like, whatever was coming out of their mouth, I was like, that's not you, like
Mhm.
you're just saying that, and it when you get to that level of like being in their stories or being, sometimes it's like it's challenging, right? Like I know you can do it.
Yeah. With love.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And this whole homework thing, it's like, it's just like, well, the homework will come. Like the homework is the stuff that we do in here, and then you have to, go outside and do it.
Yeah. And coming, I like the challenging piece, I feel like is so sweet because, I mean, I think a lot of us therapists frame our space as like, we're going to create a non-judgmental and safe space. Like to the average listener, us saying like, that's bullshit, or me calling a client out this week, I'm like, yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure, can be framed as like, oh, they're judging them hard.
Right,
But really I care so much about you that this cycle that you're in isn't working.
right.
And it's not out of judgment, it's not out of negativity or saying you're wrong.
Mm-mm.
It's that like, hey, do you see
Right,
this? And if they're like, no, it doesn't feel like bullshit, or no, this feels like the right thing, then I'm gonna be curious about like, oh, okay,
right,
my bad. Let's talk. Tell me, understand more, so that I don't jump to that.
right.
But it's not out of like judgment at all,
No,
or saying like they're not an expert in how they want to do things. But
right.
it's like more so from a curious and caring place of what's leading you to this, because it feels like it's not working for you.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know about you, but like for myself, it's like people do think that we judge them, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't have anything to judge, Like
Hmm.
the fact is that you're telling me everything. Who am I to judge you?
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. One of my clients, I think like a month or so ago, was like, yeah, but tell me like what you really think though.
Yeah.
Like tell me like, yeah, but you gotta think for like when you hear about this outside of therapy,
Yeah.
it'd be ridiculous, right? I'm like, well, no, not really.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe a part of me, sure, but like not really. Like I think what you're telling me right now is completely reasonable. I can see the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And if it's not working, then why are we still doing it?
Yeah.
Let's talk through that,
Yeah.
because it has to be doing something for you to keep you here. Otherwise, if it's not, it's time to make some change.
Right.
Yeah. That's like, I think the non-judgmental part of the space really comes from, I care about you.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep going back to that, but it's very true. I think that's how I do the work, and how I think a lot of our clinicians that are practicing the work of like wanting our care for our clients to come forward first.
Absolutely. Because I think it's hard for people to believe. Like, because, yeah, we're human, right? Naturally, we're going to judge, right? But it's also like, no, we signed up for this work. Like, again, I tore my ACL almost 2 years ago, and the doctor didn't judge me. Like they were like, how did you tear your ACL? What were you doing?
Yeah, fair point.
And I'm just like, or the physical therapist, it's like, okay, there's so many injuries that happen that way. And
It's just
so
what it is.
it is what, yeah, exactly. So if at any point you feel like I'm judging you, I want you to call me out.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like,
let's talk through it.
let's talk through it. What am I doing that is making you feel uncomfortable?
Mhm.
Right? Is that showing up elsewhere too?
Right. Oh, yeah. Such a clinical conversation. Where it's like, let's bring it right into the relationship right here. I said this, you had this reaction, and what's going on?
Yeah.
Can I be this person who's like, man, I really messed up there and I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, let's rewind and do this again. Because I don't think a lot of clients get that outside of outside of the space. And I think that's part of the reason why they're in the space, to feel that level of attunement and care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll even call that myself. Like, I'm like, okay, look, if this is the dumbest thing or the stupidest thing that you've ever heard, tell me, before I, like, when I say something, or, if I'm like, okay, over the week, like, do you think you can do blah, 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 but it's the dumbest thing you've ever heard. Tell me, I don't care. Like, I want you to call me out. I want you to say that that's not going to work for me. Okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. You know yourself better than I do. You're the expert in the room. But I'm bringing the educational background.
Totally. And even if what they say does hurt me, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's not for them to hold back things that they're feeling because they're afraid that's going to hurt me.
Right.
Like, that's not what a relationship is.
No.
Like, you can say things, it can hurt my feelings because I'm a human being. But what I do with that is something for me to figure out.
Exactly.
And then I will. And I can hold all of that and still give you care.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people coming back to that, to like this shame and anxiety from a little bit ago, like, really they want to know that they can say things and that's okay. And like, there can still be a relationship at the end of it.
Yeah.
But if we're too worried about like, oh, if I say this, my partner will react this way, or this person will react this way, and I'm going to just keep it to myself, and that's where a lot of problems, long-term problems start.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole resentment
and
all of that stuff. Like we said earlier, same phrase, two different ways you can say it.
Right. Right. Well, Amisha, this has been so good, and I want to keep talking, and I also want to be so aware of the time and everything like that. So every episode, I ask 3 doorknob questions. As you know, doorknob questions are the burning heat, the hot questions that clients say on the way out at the 15-minute. And so I have 3 doorknob questions for you today. And the first one is, what's a small joy in your life that you've been loving recently?
Well, I think the small joy, it is like, when we went to like Spain and stuff like that, I still tried to kind of bring that authenticity of like, let's just be, because of how we can get so wrapped up. Even the other day when I was getting ready for the gala, I was like, oh wow, like a few weeks ago, I was just like in Sevilla having a glass of wine and, like eating great food and stuff like that. So I still try and bring that joy in self-care in the same space that we were today.
Yeah, totally. I love it. I could tell every day from the office that you're trying to do your best. I'll kid you not. Between sessions, Amisha's just so laid back. She's like, I'm just getting through the day. I'm just me. And like, I think that level of energy is something I need in the space, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I got this client coming up, but seeing Amisha chill and laid back is very grounding.
Aww.
And I think it's grounding to a lot of other clinicians that we work with too. So thank you for that. A small joy you've been enjoying is a big joy that I've been enjoying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Second doorknob question is, if you could pick one thing that a client's taught you about life, about relationships, what would that be?
Oh man. That, like, I think one thing that they've taught me is just basically how important I am in their life. And just like how this space that I create for them and keep on creating for them, they enjoy and they value so much. And so it's like, how do I keep on doing that for them? So it's like a loop in a case.
Yeah.
Because I make the space for them, they get more authentic, they get more whatever, but they value me and what I have to say. And like sometimes when they're talking to what's been surprising is how I'm talked about.
Mm.
Like when they tell me like, oh, I told my parents about my therapist said this, and I'm like, who's your therapist? Oh, like I have to think for a moment, right? And oh yeah, it's me. So like just teaching me to just show up the way I am is one of the things that is always a lesson that I've been taking from my clients.
I love that. I love that. That feedback feels so important to help you keep showing up to each and every client that you see.
Yeah.
And like to hear that keeps you going.
Yeah.
And I think this is reminding me of, I listened to this mental health podcast because that's what it feels like a lot of my life is. And they always say like, these two therapists who teach on something, and they always say like, thank you. They talk directly to the listeners, and they're like, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Because you're impacting like not only the client, but you're impacting generations beyond them.
Yeah.
And like when I listen to you, it's hearing that feedback, hearing how your clients talk about you, how you're impacting the generations, that keeps that energy up, keeps you like fulfilled in the work that you do. So then you can continue to do that across the clients you see in a day or in a week or in a month.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, my last question for you to wrap up our episode today is, if you could share one message with your younger self, whether that be little Amisha, or somewhere in the recent past, what would that message be?
Oh wow, we're going deep here.
Oh yeah, we're getting real.
We're getting real now. How do I say this? All right. Trust. Just trust her. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna do something that is gonna be impactful that you never thought. And knowing I'm gonna make a difference in people's lives in a different way that nobody ever thought of. So it's just like, trust everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna do good.
Well, Amisha, thank you so much for being on the show. Of course, for everyone listening, if you want to connect with Amisha, or learn more about her information and everything will be in the show notes. And again, Amisha, I'm so thankful you're here. I'm so thankful that you've taken time out of your Sunday to come into my home and chat with me. And I think the community who listens to this is going to be grateful for you too.
Thank you so much. I feel honored to be on your podcast. And anybody listening, I also have a podcast. Let's Try and Chat. Gonna be coming out. I mean, it's been on episode 5 comes out in a couple weeks. But
and are we gonna get another season out of you?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I
pressure to say this.
Yes. Yeah. So season 2 is gonna happen. I didn't know if it was gonna happen or not, but I think from the feedback that I've been getting and my number one fan here.
What can I say?
Like, it's gonna continue. I think there's gonna be some changes, but some, especially as you learn,
Mm-hmm.
how I'm gonna adapt to what my viewers or my listeners say. So, thank you so much.
Amazing. Cheers. All right. Sweet. How do you feel? Yeah. That was amazing.